grab your cup of coffee, and today we are talking about just 9th grade and what classes my 9th grade student is taking for the 2023-2024 school year. Hey everyone, I learned my lesson from last video and have a hot drink ready in case my throat decides to go super dry when in the middle of filming right at the end, so that my outro was really weird. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, so today I've made, or for this video, I've made a cup of coffee. I'm going to sip on it a little bit as we go. And we are talking about 9th grade only and what my 9th grade student who currently lives in East Tennessee is going to be doing for her 9th grade semester, or her 9th grade school year. So I also feel like I should preface with this a little bit that this is not my first 9th grader. It's not even my second 9th grader. This is my third 9th grade student, because when we adopted my oldest, she had to go through 9th grade as well. And then also, of course, my second oldest one, she also was already in the middle of 9th grade when we adopted my oldest. So like, this is not my first rodeo with a 9th grade student. Plus the cool thing about my other two older ones is one is a complete visual learner and one is an AP class student. My rising 9th grader is kind of somewhere in the middle, not quite like needs to do the requirements for AP classes, although she probably can for sciences, but she also is a lot more like my visual one when it comes to like doing reports and things. She loves reading, but when it comes to reports, she sometimes gets things better whenever she's visually looking at it. So her curriculum for this upcoming year is mostly visual with some reading elements tied in with it. So let's talk about a couple of things. And again, I'm going to summarize real quick that I'm not talking about what she's specifically doing for each class, because this video would be over an hour long, possibly 2 hours long, to literally say, this is the class she's taking, this is the curriculum, this is why we chose it. Each individual class that any of my kids are doing, every Thursday my goal is to do a new video. If it's a class that we've already done, there'll be another video and I'll tag it and I will link it in the description box below. But my goal is not to just sit here and talk about each individual class and what subject or what we're going to be using for like curriculum or book work or any of that. This is just a summary of what she's going to be doing, and then it can give you more of a visual idea of how that ties in with the individual classes as we talk about them. Because also, like, some people may want to learn about like, okay, how does movies as literature work, but they don't want to learn every single thing that my 9th grader is going to be doing. They just want to talk about movies as literature. So movies as literature, separate video. It's already done. We did it over a year ago, I think. I think we did a review on it beginning of summer 2022, and we're finishing summer 2023 right now. So that's kind of where we are. So I'm going to go through the list of the classes she's taking alphabetically. Again, we use Home Life Academy based in East Tennessee, because right now we're in East Tennessee, and we base our homeschooling out of East Tennessee. That's kind of where we are right now. So I'm kind of going through the list, and they list the list alphabetically, and then I can just go in and plug in grades through their online system, and it works out really well. So the first subject she has listed is her math, and it's Algebra 1. And it's not because math is for alphabetically first, it's because Algebra 1 is alphabetically first. I have already done a video on what my kids use for digital online math resources, free, and for what she's doing for curriculum, and then the free supplementals that we're using that are 100% free online. That'll be linked up here somewhere. I can't remember when I'm filming. I think it may be right here. But anyways, we're going to link it in the description box, and it'll have all of that there. You can see the video on that. But yeah, so she's going in Algebra 1, which will also put her in this exact same math as my rising 8th grader. So it's a little weird, but also like we have to explain to her, it's not that she's not advanced, it's that the 8th grade sister is more advanced and just like for her age. And that this is exactly where my 9th grade student needs to be. And I think she kind of gets that by now, is that like my 8th grade student, she's a prodigy. We get that, we accept that, but also like sometimes I have to remind her that if she gets something before you, it doesn't mean that you're dumb. It means that you take a different process of learning it than she does, and you all learn differently. So that's kind of where we are. But also it's kind of fun whenever I compare them up with subjects, because again, I have two 11th graders. So then if like one is struggling, they can both sit there together. The one who's teaching is learning how to explain it in a teaching format, which in some curriculums is required for math, of like, show me how you did this and proof. And I have found that instead of doing that, I'll have one child teach another, and it helps. And also, like, it's a peer, you know, teaching somebody else, which also is a way that my husband and I work on teaching our kids to respect one another, even if it's somebody that's younger than you or slightly older than you or is also a student. And that way it's like us also learning, and it's a teamwork building concept as well. So they're both gonna be doing Algebra 1 this year, but that's not the only class they're gonna be doing together, and I will get to that. Oh yeah, next alphabetically, animal science. So we talked about this last week. When plugging in classes, and this is really, really important. In Tennessee, you're required to have 4 literature, 4 math, 3 science, 3 history, with specifically, you have to choose world geography or world history, and this is to graduate high school. You have to choose world geography or world history, you have to take US history, and you have to take government and economics. One semester in homeschool, it's 1 semester of government and 1 semester of economics. I don't remember how public school handles that. Anyway, so like it's because for homeschool, you do it for a full year. You don't do a semester of algebra and then a semester of science the next one. You do algebra and science the same school year from fall to spring. And then if you need to, through summer as well. And then you also are required to take 6 elective classes. One of those is health class. You're required to take health. You're required to take PE, which has to equal 150 hours of physical activity, which breaks down to, I think we broke it down to, it's 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week for an entire school year. And then you also have to take personal finance. So that's kind of all in there as well. And y'all be talking about some of those in just a minute as well, because my rising 9th grader, because she's starting high school, we were looking at, you have to check off the boxes of all the credits that you take to be able to graduate high school. My rising 9th grader is also at the moment, and we don't push this, if my kids decide their 12th grade year, you know what, I'm gonna go to missions college instead, I don't really wanna do the science major anymore, we're fine with that. But right now the path that she's chosen is science, and she's leaning more towards animal science. So all of her classes, I try to gear her towards animal science. So that's kind of where she is. Now, she is going to be taking 2 science classes this year. In 9th grade, because you only require 3 to graduate, and for going to college, it's biology, chemistry, and physics. You're not required to take a 9th grade science class. Most kids don't take biology until 10th grade. You are not required to take 4 years of science to graduate high school. But because she's doing something that is a science major, we want her to have more science in her schedule. So what she's going to be doing is she's taking an optional, and it's counting as an elective. For the fall, she's going to be taking animal science. Now, if you saw with our 8th grader, with our umbrella school, when it plugs into an 8th grade science class, it's called zoology. For 9th grade high school credit, or for any high school credit, it's called animal science. It's a little bit different, and it's an elective science class, or it's a tech school or non-college graduate class option. But for her, again, if she still wants to continue the animal science path, she might as well, and it would look, there's some things we'll do because it looks good on their transcript. So this was one of those things. So we found an animal science program that my rising 8th grader and 9th grader are going to do together, and I'll talk about that more in another video soon, about like what all that includes, how we're doing it, and how we're only doing, and why we're only doing it for 1 semester. So she's only doing it for the fall semester. This spring, she's going to be doing one that when we plugged it in to the umbrella school for high school credit, what you call it is environmental science. Now, if you remember from last week's video, my 8th grader, we called it ecology. So when a middle school student takes it, it's called ecology. When a 9th grade student takes it, it's called environmental science. Basically, and I'll go through all of that in another video of just what we're doing, but basically like half the semester, we're doing something that's more like weather, and the other half of the semester we're doing something that she specifically requested to want to be able to do for science credit that she already was doing last year. So that's kind of where we are with science, is we basically pieced together what she wanted to do, because again, she didn't have to, we're doing it because she wanted to. And we're also breaking it up into 2 semesters. And my phone just went dark. How dare it? Does anybody else have that problem? So the next class on here is the literature, and she is doing the movies as literature program. So basically what we did was, when we adopted my oldest child, I was talking to the umbrella school, I'm like, I need a literature program for a child who cannot read very well, cannot write very well, visual learners. She goes, oh honey, let's talk for a minute. We spent an hour talking about movies as literature. So I bought the book. It's like $45 to $50. I bought the book. What I do is I require, even though she did children's movies as literature last year, but the only reason I went ahead and did that last year for when she was in 8th grade, and for what I'm doing for my rising 8th grader, is because my kids that were born in my house have been doing have been doing writing reports with the Becca in 3rd grade. And then with Monarch, they also did reports. So they were already familiar with reports, but just kind of like a consistency thing, and because it helps to kind of fill in the credit class, we are going through the movies as literature every 9th grader that we have in our home, because it just makes it easier to just kind of remind us of, hey, here's these questions to prompt you with the creative writing process. Why do we use the word onomatopoeia when talking about 2 of the songs in The Music Man? What is a Western? Why do we call things sci-fi? Let's talk about compare and contrast. Let's talk about, spoiler for the upcoming video, let's talk about the comparison between The Lion King and Hamlet. Stuff like that. So going back to the basics for beginning of 9th grade, because also like beginning of 9th grade is the anxiety of I'm starting high school. Like even if you're homeschooled, public school, whatever, 9th grade is gonna have anxiety of I'm starting high school. So having a class that's back down to the fundamentals, back down to the basics, to just talk about it is a great building stone for her. So we're gonna do movies as literature. I have a full review video on that up here. I'm gonna do another one on just British movies as literature. I'm gonna do another one on just children's movies as literature. And then, spoiler for next week, my rising 11th graders are doing movies as literature, but doing a different topic. So we'll talk about that later. So again, talking back on, we're doing some classes just because they're required to graduate in Tennessee. And one of those is health class. I'm gonna be honest, I had highly debated doing the Maturation unit from The Good and the Beautiful. And those of you who haven't seen that, you know what? I'm gonna link my friend Kim's video, but do not let a child under the age of 18 watch the video with you, because Kim is open and honest about every single aspect that's in that. That's not what we feel like we've been pulled and called to do. Also, with having an adopted child, there's some trauma there. So like, we're gonna be doing high school health for my rising 9th grader and my 2 rising 11th graders. My rising 8th grader, we got permission to do the high school algebra with her, but the health was pushing it. So we're gonna have to do health again, but I wanted to go at, there's some classes that I just wanted to group kids together and do and not have to repeat. When I was looking at the fact of health was going to include Maturation, I wanted to just do all of them together and not ever have to do it again. It's not gonna happen. The more like Matt and I prayed about it and talked about it, we weren't comfortable with doing the Maturation unit. We just weren't, because of past trauma with my adopted child. So we're gonna do something really cool, and honestly, it's probably gonna lean more, I'm gonna do it in another video. Because I could talk for 30 minutes on what we're gonna do for health. It's really cool. But I'm gonna say that health is one of the classes that she's doing, and I'll do a review at the end of reviewing everything again, list of classes, credits, and all that. But she's going to be doing health this year for a credit. Speaking of another credit, isn't on here, yeah. So let me just go, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it because we're also 13 minutes in. I didn't want to do over 20 minutes on these videos. Also, I need to go ahead and film the 11th grade one today because my week is busy. It is the last week of our summer semester, and I need to just get these filmed today because the next 2 weeks we're gonna be like crazy busy. All right, so again, alphabetically, for math, she's doing algebra 1. For science, she's doing, and that's 1 credit. For science, she's doing animal science and environmental science. Half a credit for each of those classes equals 1 credit of elective science. Literature, she's doing the movies as literature book. We're gonna go through the book. We are not doing all the movies in the movies as literature book because we don't like some of the topics of some of the other movies, and we have Disney Plus, so we try to utilize Disney Plus as much as possible, but we are starting with like 7 movies that came from the movies as literature book, and then we're springboarding off of that. So I will be open and honest about that. I don't like all the movies in there. Some of them are horror movies. I wasn't comfortable doing that. Again, when you're dealing with an adopted child who's been through trauma, there are some things that your family changes because of that. So that's kind of where we are. So the next 4 classes are electives, but they're required electives. So you get a choice of 6 electives. Oh no, sorry, 3 of them are picked out. Like you have to do 6 electives, but 3 of these are like you have to do them to graduate. One of them is a fun one, so let's go through that. Health, she's going to do health. She is going to do health class. It's required to take health class for one full credit. One full, is it full or half? Oh, it's half. She's going to do 1 half credit of health to graduate. So it's only going to be a fall semester. So again, like, make it a whole lot easier on her because her spring semester is going to be pretty light low. Cooking. So cooking is one, they're trying to push more life skills classes again because a lot of kids just, even homeschool kids, the life skill classes get neglected. So what we do is, last year, my rising 11th graders, now they were 10th graders at the time, did cooking, and for my adopted child, she needed that. My older one, it was more of like teaching more kitchen safety because she's been cooking since she was 6. She loves cooking, she loves baking, but I wanted to do more focus on like kitchen safety, and I have tomato allergies. My lactose free one, or my one who loves tomatoes, is lactose intolerant. So like, we also talked about food safety and food prep because one of them also does a lot of, both my older kids work in our church nursery on rotations once a month. And like we have rule at our church, there's no nuts in the nursery. So we talk about like cross-contamination and things like that with cooking. And then they were required to make 1 meal every week. And that met our timeline of like 150 hours of cooking for it to count. So that's what my rising 9th grader is going to be doing, and I don't remember if we talked about that in a separate video or not, but we can. Foreign language, I'm not going to do a video on it. All my kids are using Duolingo from now on for foreign language because when we switched to Duolingo over the summer for foreign language, I'm a lot happier with it. And then what our plan is maybe in the spring when they have a lot lighter workload, because some of them are taking half semester classes this fall, so they'll have less to have to do in the spring. Then we may go into more of like the history portion and all that, but honestly, mostly for me, I'm fine with them just learning the language, because if they're learning the language, they're more likely to go and experience the culture hands-on themselves. And like we study cultures whenever we travel, so like that's just kind of our thing. My kids say please and thank you in Chinese when we go to Chinese restaurants. They say it in Spanish when we go to Spanish restaurants. None of the people at our Italian restaurant speak Italian. It's weird. Anyways, the last one that's required again is the physical education. All we do is we make a spreadsheet and we fill the hours in and what they did, how many hours they did. I can show you how to do that in another video if y'all want. Let me know. But anyways, that's it. So, 1 semester about our Algebra 1, 2 sciences, a literature, health, home ec, cooking, Japanese, physical education. So by the end of the year, she should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 credits to start, and she only needs 22 to graduate. So if she only did 6 credits each year, that's 24 credits. She only needs 22 to graduate. It's a pretty good start. And that is what my rising 9th grade is going to do. Again, look for every Thursday, unless we're traveling, every Thursday should be a homeschooling video. And I'm going to go a little more in depth on some of these classes of like specifically what we're going to be using to study with. And cause like I want to get more in depth. I don't want to just be like quick summary. I want to get more in depth with those. So like we'll be talking about the science classes soon of what the kids are doing, and review of some of the classes that the kids took last year and are going to be repeating with other siblings this year. That's it for this video. Thank you to all of our members for supporting this content. There will be some members only posts soon at the 99¢ and above level of like our meal plans, also like lists that we use for specific, like our movie list for our movies as literature, because that takes a lot of time for my day. And if I'm taking time for YouTube, that means I'm not working a part-time job to help support my family. So like that's how we're kind of balancing it out right now, is that some stuff is getting moved to members only posts and members only videos to help compensate for where we need that extra income right now because of situation with my husband's work. But so some of that will be members only. So thank you to all our members for supporting us. Again, we have 99¢ and above is for posts only. And then we have one that's at $5 a month and up for specific videos just for members. And we have an upcoming video about why we quit wearing dresses all the time. So that's a members only video coming up soon. But thank you again to all of you for liking, watching, positive comments, and subscribing, because that even if you can't do the membership, the positive comments and subscribing and liking and watching like on a regular basis, that helps me to continue to feel like, okay, you guys actually want to see this content and that you're getting help from these videos. And that just kind of gives me that push to keep going. And the ad revenue also helps us. And we will see you next time.